Yo, what's going on? I'd like to talk for a minute about a couple ways that I've found are useful for modulating to like pretty much any key that you'd want. So like if you're in C major and you want to go to like A flat or something, it can be kind of difficult sometimes if you're like doing the standard, ways that I taught. So I found a couple like a little bit more contemporary ways to do it. Just a preface, just to preface a little bit. It's going to be a little bit more advanced, the theory topics. So if you're kind of new, it might go over your head a little bit. First one I've got three. I think I got three different topics. This one, the Jacob Collier does sort of in this video. Kind of went viral a couple years ago. I think I'm a little late to the party. It was uploaded in 2017. But I watched it a while ago, and there's this one part at like 5 minutes and 2 seconds or so where he kind of goes around here. So this is like him and Larnell Lewis sort of jamming out to this app that he showed him, I guess. It's pretty epic, yeah, I would say. There's this one part, it's kind of funny. He kind of like does this thing on his keyboard, but then Jacob continues, so the hand started it over. He just sort of finishes the idea. It's kind of insane actually, like the reaction time that he had. It's pretty epic, I would say. Anyways, there's this part at like 5:02 where there's a few parts in this session where he does this sort of thing. It's coming up in like 5 seconds. Right here. And the way he uses it isn't for modulation, I don't think. But I think, or at least not too drastic of modulation. Like it's going from something to like something else. But anyways, it's essentially what he's doing is he does it in a couple other spots. Some people are like talking about it in the comments. But what he's doing essentially, and I'm not going to do exactly what he does, but he's going around the circle of fifths. I got a circle of fifths here. He's going counterclockwise, which is nice because you got a lot of five ones. So like if you're in B flat, you got this key right here, right? It's B flat. The 5 chord is F, right? It's right to the right of it. Oh, by the way, I got this cool program called Chordy that says like the chords that I'm playing right here, and it shows what I'm playing and stuff. It's pretty epic. Anyways, you got 5-1 is coming from the right side of the circle of fifths, right? So let's say in B flat and we want to go to somewhere crazy like a G flat or something. Normally it'd be hard because you're going from here to, and it's a little funky. You can use B flat as like the 5 of E flat, like what he was doing essentially was he was going up fourths, right? So he was going F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B. So like he was doing a little bit of a variation on that. So he was just sort of like spinning around, and using it as a bunch of 5. Sorry for the jingle jangle. My dog's hanging out over there. A cool thing that I found. So like let's say we want to go from B flat to G flat. We can just go B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat. And it sort of resolves nicely there. Another way that you can do it is using a bunch of dominant 7 chords, and then once you arrive on G flat, you can do either major 7 or just no 7 at all. So like I might not be as quick as this one. You can go or like B flat 7 to E flat 7 to A flat 7 to D flat 7. Oh wait. Sorry, hang on. There it is. To that G flat major 7, or to that G flat, because obviously the 3 and the 7 resolve up and down. You know, another way that I've found that's kind of cool is if instead of doing major 7 or dominant 7, you can do major 7. Hello. So let's say we're going from B flat to G flat again. If you do a bunch of major 7s, it can sound nice too. It's less of like a harmonic, like cadential thing. Like there's not as much technically strong cadences, but it still sounds nice. You know, like there's not half step motion everywhere, but that doesn't make it bad in my opinion. Another way that you can do this that I've never really been taught this. I'm sure I'm not the first one to figure it out, but something that I found out when I was improvising once was if you like, let's say you're in C major, right, and your destination is like B. It's a little bit different. It's like pretty far in the circle of fifths. You know, it's like almost as far as you can get. Oops, like right here. You know. Something that I found is interesting to do. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna go back to that other thing for a second. I'm just sort of rambling. Hopefully it's somewhat coherent. I'm gonna go back to those fourths thing. So if you don't always have to go fourths. Like Jacob Collier, what he does is he replaces one of them with a third. He goes from like on one of them he goes like A to C. You know, a minor third, instead of normally it'd be A to D. Like that sort of thing, but he goes from A to C. So like if you want to go from like B flat to F, it'd be really long. You'd have to go all the way around it. So you can replace one of the fourths with a third, and it'll shorten the distance by a little bit. So like B flat to E flat is a fourth, and the A flat. If you go up a third, you can go to like C, and you can go from C to F. So like B flat to E flat to A flat to C. If you do it fast, it doesn't. The harmonic stuff, where it's not technically as cadential, doesn't really. You don't have to worry about it as much. Yeah. Or whatever, like you end up in F, and you're going A flat or B flat. Sorry, I skipped the C thing. B flat, A flat, C, F. You can copy that. But obviously it's not going to be as strong harmonically, technically, but it's whatever. You can also do minor thirds and stuff like that. He goes from A to C natural. So like, let's say if we're in, I don't know, like E. Hello. Hang on a second. My dog wants something. I'm back. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's a cool way of doing it. Another way of doing it is instead of, this is like the second option that I was talking about over the three that I was thinking. The third one is completely different, has nothing really to do with going, like repeating steps, fourths or thirds or whatever. This one, I found, so like you going from C to B is kind of an extreme cadence, since it's really far, C to going to B is, it's a little bit far. So one thing that you can do is, there's this one, like if you're in C major and you're just like hanging out there and you're going 4, 5, 1, you got stuff going on. You can sort of like, modal mixture. I don't know if that's something that a lot of people know about, but modal mixture is like if you're in like C major and you borrow a chord from C minor, so like you're in C minor, you got, those chords. So like you're borrowing A flat from C major or B flat or something like that, or like E flat is like a chord that's in C minor but that's not in C major, and you're borrowing that chord from C minor, but one thing that there's a song that does it. What is it? Oh yeah, the Old Town Road song. So like it goes like that, and then it does stuff in A minor, but it is on the one chord. It's more like a Picardy third in that song, where like you're in minor, but when you get to the one chord, it's like actually major. But there's like a gray area where I don't know if I'm actually major or minor because you're mixing them so much. But anyways, you can use modal mixture because like if you go C major, or if you're in C minor actually, and you go down a step, that's still in the key, and so is that, A flat. You're going down steps in C minor, and it's all or like diatonic if you're in C minor. But if you're in C major, and you do stuff in C major, and you throw in an A flat chord, that can be used nicely. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. What I was talking about was like, if you go and you're in C major, and you go down steps, like, it'd be modal mixture, but you can keep going down steps, and you're kind of like at A flat, and then normally in C minor you'd go down to G, you wouldn't go down to G flat is what I'm saying, like if you're going down whole steps. But if you use like the whole tone scale of C major, and then you go down to, like G flat, or F sharp, and I don't know why, it doesn't like listen to, because I don't have a key input, it says that, don't worry about it. I would call it a G flat. If you're in C whole tone scale, I guess you could call it, this kind of an awkward way of saying it, but you're in C whole tone, and you use that, you can like sort of, go down whole tones with major chords, or with seventh chords, or major sevens, which is one of my favorites. And if you keep doing that, but one of them you skip a whole tone and instead you go down a half tone, so maybe, and one way I like to do it a lot, is you skip, and normally you go down C, B flat, A flat, G flat, and E, D, C. That's a whole tone scale. You, instead of going to that E from that, you can skip that and go down a half step instead, and then keep doing whole tones after that. And then you can get to B, and it sounds really cool once you get there. Your ear kind of doesn't immediately, especially if you have like perfect pitch or whatever, if you don't have perfect pitch, your ear doesn't recognize immediately that you're going down a half step there, if it's going like, fast enough or whatever. If it doesn't realize that you're in a different whole tone scale now. So like C whole tone doesn't have that F, and there's only 2 whole tone scales. Hopefully you guys know about that. If you have C sharp whole tone, it has that E. Or are we just kidding? It has that F. Sorry, that's what I was talking about. It has that F, and it has that B also. But that C whole tone scale, remember we're trying to get from C to B, but it's hard to. If you're going down and you skip that E natural whole tone, and you go to F sharp, and you keep going down, your brain sort of thinks that nothing really happened, but then you get to like that B, and it sounds cool. So like if you use a bunch of major sevens, this is what I found it out with. Like I was just sort of playing around in C major, and I sort of tried to do like little mixture stuff, and I did a G flat chord, and I just kept going down, but I did an F chord here, and an E flat, and a D flat, and I landed in B. But if you make that like a climax to that B major chord, it's like, whoa, you've arrived somewhere that's totally out of the ordinary. So like we got, so like normally if you go down whole steps, it sounds, and you just get back to C. But if you skip that E and you go to F instead, sounds really dope, but you didn't really notice that if you didn't have like that F, unless you like really arrive there, that F doesn't really, and then that F doesn't really stand out too much if you're just like sort of using it as a passing. Hopefully that makes sense, kind of. But like, if you don't make that F the strong beat, and you instead make the B the strong beat, the B's like, well, how did we get here? We were just in C a second ago. Your brain doesn't really understand what's going on, but it sounds really dope anyways, because, you know, it's not, it doesn't make sense like you're going C, B, A flat, G flat, F, and you're not really resolving that. But now we're in B, and how did we get here, you know? It's sort of that whole deal. And the brain doesn't really realize that F was there, and when you're going down whole steps, you were like, oh, okay, it's probably E, but it's not actually, because, anyways, let's see, the last one, you gotta know what a fully diminished 7 is. Hopefully you know that. This last way of resolving pretty much anywhere is a little bit more well known. It uses something called the half diminished scale. So let's say we're in C major, right? Right, and okay, so actually I'm going to talk about for a second 7th chords. You can get a major 7, and you can get a minor 7, and they're both diatonic in C major, like if you have C major 7 and A minor 7. You can also get like a regular 7, you know, like a major with the flat 7. Or you can get like a half diminished. And they're all diatonic. You can have all of those, but the fully diminished 7th chord, there's no diatonic 7th chords that are in like any, you know, modal scale where the 7th chord, where that fully diminished 7 isn't, you know, an accidental somewhere. So you can use it as like sort of a passing chord to get to one of those diatonic chords if you want. So like, let's say we're in C, because, you know, it's nice. And then we want to get to G. Normally something you can do is you can go that for like a bar, and then you can go that for a bar. It's like a really simple chord progression. So C for a bar, G for a bar, and then back to C. Instead we could go approach from a half step below that G. You can use an F sharp fully diminished 7. So we can go this for half a bar, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're back here. And it sounds nice. So like it also sounds really cool when you use it going towards minor chords, because it has that harmonic minor sort of feel to it. So like if you start with C, and then you go to, instead of going to A minor, like, you know, like, instead of going straight to that A minor, you can go G sharp fully diminished 7. It sort of sounds like a similar to like the 5 of 6, you know, if that makes sense. If you start C, then you go, that 5 of 6. It's sort of similar to that. Forget that fully A flat diminished 7 or G sharp fully diminished 7. But this fully diminished 7 is really dope because it can really resolve. You don't even have to be from like a half step below, right? As long as one of the notes in the fully diminished 7 is a half step below, it'll still resolve there. So like, that's what I can use this as an example. Let's say we got C diminished 7. You take that C and go up a step. You got C sharp, you know, and you make a major chord out of that. You can go C diminished 7 to C sharp. And it resolves nicely because we got that going there, these two notes going to there. And we also got this note going here. So there's a lot of, and that E flat sort of can go down or up, you know, kind of like the G chord, how that D can go either down or up. Does that make sense? So like, anyways, it works really well. But you can also, since fully diminished 7th chords are stackable, you can stack a C on top, or you get a minor third, minor third, minor third. If you add another minor third, it's another C. So that means that C to fully diminished 7 has the same notes as, you know, E flat fully diminished 7, F sharp fully diminished 7. diminished 7, and then, it goes back to C. But that means that we can use the C diminished 7 to go up to like E instead, because we got that E flat, and since C fully diminished 7 is the same as E flat fully diminished 7, and since C diminished 7 can go up to C sharp, that means that E flat diminished 7 can go up to E. And since C diminished 7 is the same as E flat diminished 7, then that means that C diminished 7 can go to E. And it does, sure enough, because all those notes are going to the right places. So like C goes to B, C goes to B, or that E flat D sharp goes to that E natural, and then that F sharp can go either down to the E or up to the G sharp, and then the A goes down to the G sharp. You get the, I don't have to explain it for every single one, but now you realize probably that since that can go there and that can also go there, then that means that it can take that F sharp and go up a step from that too and make a major chord, and you can resolve to G, depending on how you spell it. Or, take the A and go up to B flat. So that means that C fully diminished 7 can strongly resolve to C sharp, E natural, G, and B flat. You can kind of resolve it to, steps below too. It doesn't work quite as well in my opinion, but like, we got C diminished 7, and then you can go to like B. It kind of works, but not really. You can sort of make that C go down to the B, and if you're using a major 7, you can use this A to go up to the G sharp, or the A sharp. But it's not strong. Anyways, if we take this, we can resolve, you can resolve there, you can resolve to there, you can resolve to there, you can resolve to there. So, if we take that scale, or that chord, and bring it all up a half step, you got a chord that can resolve to all of the chords that you could resolve to before, but up a half step, obviously, because it's the same chord up a half step. So now if you got C sharp diminished 7, you can resolve there, you can resolve there, you can resolve there, and you can also resolve here. And if we take those two chords, C diminished 7 and C sharp diminished 7, we can make a scale out of the notes in those chords. And that's called the half diminished scale. And this is a pretty awesome scale because if you, do it over a chord, like that chord can resolve anywhere. And you can also do it over, that second chord. So you have 8 different places you can resolve to out of the 12 that are existing, and 2 of those places, the C and the C sharp, are kind of like home already, but not really. It's like, I don't know, it's hard to pick out a home when you're in the scale, which is one of the tricky parts, because you got a full diminished chord as the 1 chord, and the flat 1 chord. Anyways, you can sort of use that to resolve to a lot of places. You can pretty much resolve anywhere you want to. And since you can kind of resolve down, you can also resolve down, which means you can essentially resolve to anywhere you want to. So like, let's say you got this C fully diminished scale. You can use it in solos, right? Sometimes, depending on, how experimental the music is. But let's take C fully diminished, and we're in a bar in a jazz band song that's about to go to D flat, let's say. Like either a D flat chord or the D flat key. If it goes out to the D flat key, it sounds really awesome. We can use that, and we can use this as like a pickup chord, and it sort of resolves there. My piano playing isn't the greatest, so I couldn't use it in a weird harmonically spelled way. Or you know what I'm saying? Or we're on a D, we can use the same scale. We can go, That's the third way that I was talking about how you can resolve anywhere. So, as a review, sort of, the first way that I found well, I didn't find, but like the first way that I'm talked about in this video is using Jacob Collier's sort of method, where you can go up fourths, like C, F, B flat, E flat, and you can use sort of like diatonically spelled, like, or not I don't know who said that. You can use sort of like 7th chords, and even flat 7 chords, like regular 7 chords, to get to that place. The second way that I was talking about was going down whole steps, but making one of them a half step, but not making it the strong beat, so your brain doesn't realize it until you get to a place that you want to go, and making that the strong beat. Oops. And I feel like that gives me a really weird sensation, you know? Like, it gives me like a, whoa, how did we get here sort of sensation, you know? And then the last one was using the fully diminished scale, which is a little bit more of a popular way of doing it, to get somewhere else. That's kind of the way I see it. That's like one of the few uses of the fully diminished scale, because it's kind of weird. It's kind of like a low Korean, where you got a 1 chord that's diminished. So if you try to make that home and then build a song off of that, it's gonna be difficult, more difficult in my view, obviously, because, you know, major chords and minor chords are a lot easier to make feel at home than diminished chords and diminished 7th chords. So it's hard to use that as like a regular scale. So I use that scale like almost exclusively as a way to get somewhere else. But yeah, those are 3 different ways that I've found that you can basically resolve anywhere from. Especially the first one. The second one, you can resolve anywhere that's not in the the parallel, you know, like the parallel whole tone scale. So like if you're in C major, the whole tone scale for C major would be, the parallel whole tone scale would be that, and you can resolve anywhere that isn't those notes, those 6 notes. You can resolve somewhere further away, like C sharp, E flat, F, G, A, or B, because you skip that half step, and then you're like, whoa, how do we get there? That's how we get there. You skip that whole step, and then you go down a half step, and then you continue going down, and now you're in a different whole tone scale, but your brain doesn't realize it. Yeah. Hopefully somebody finds this somewhat helpful. I don't know if it does, but you can use this in your writing or in your improvising. Yeah. Later.